Maybe you could spend some time influencing them or helping them see things as they should be seen.
Well, that may or may not be possible, but I will say this. I certainly know how to stand up against a radical feminist.
Well, the truth always seems more powerful than error. And as a woman, knowing the truth, how do you feel about that? I think you would have quite an advantage over people who are maybe not sincere, and maybe men that there's something, I don't know, there's something special about women that you know.
Maybe, and maybe it's a balance thing. I don't know. Frankly, here's how I see it. It's important that we have some balance in the Senate, and I think it's found in what are the backgrounds that are coming to the Senate. I'm a businesswoman, and I have a media background, and I'm also an activist. To me, that's a triple threat, because you know what I will be doing? I will be rallying we the people nonstop. I'm not going back to Washington to sit behind a senatorial desk and sign yay or nay to a bill. I've got to rally we the people. And then we have to together take it to the court of public opinion first. Take it to Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, all the good folks that are on our side on these issues. We win it there first. Then together we the people and the media can hold their feet to the fire. That is my strategy, and I can't wait to do it.
That sounds like much more than just voting, which is, of course, very important, but that sounds great.
Well, that's too often what happens. They go back there and disengage from the people. That's not my strategy. That never has been. In my 30 years of activism, I have always either worked in coalitions or rallied the people to gather around good causes. I've been doing that with the American Medical Association right now, calling for a national boycott of that union, and it is. Because they own the CPT codes. They get paid every time you go to the doctor and that number that's on your procedure. And that's why they bellied up and betrayed their industry. They sat around that negotiations table and they signed on to Obamacare so that it's always follow the money.
Well, President Obama promised transparency with C-SPAN. How do you feel about maybe having a camera with you a lot back in Washington, D.C., should you become next senator?
I like that idea. You want to go back there with me?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's a plan.
We'll give them heck.
Yeah, I like it.
There seems to be quite a movement about the Federal Reserve and how it's a private corporation and not part of the government, and how it needs to be audited and abolished. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, in all my years of activism, I have learned that the key is to follow the money. When you follow the money, you find the corruption. So, yes, I am on board with auditing the Federal Reserve. I always have been. I've known that the Federal Reserve is a private group of international bankers who are working for their own interests and not always the interests of Americans. So, but that's not far enough. And I am certain that once we've audited that the next step we need to take is to repeal the Federal Reserve Act. We need to do what our founders wanted. They said that if we ever allowed the bankers to be in control of our money, that we would one day wake up in poverty and in slavery in the nation that they freed. They would be appalled by what we have done. So we need to open up the free market to banking again. Let them compete in the free market. And you know, the Federal Reserve has been just printing monopoly money like it's going out of style. We might as well back it up with water. But I understand in Utah that water does have value.
Well, even then, when we pay our taxes, it goes to these private people, and they keep the money, and then they can use it. I asked Senator Hatch, I said, well, what about the trillions of dollars that they loan us? And then we pay back in taxes, and they get to keep it. It doesn't go back to the government. He says that's an issue. What do you think it's an issue?
Well, they're the ones making all the profits right now while we're here in the middle of a depression. You got to wonder, and where is their allegiance? You know, is it international or is it our nation? And I believe our responsibility is to stand up for what's best for America, and that's what I will do. So if we can get our monetary system back to where it used to be, where it's backed with something of value instead of fiat, we will find that we will get rid of these booms and busts. We won't have this inflation that's been costing the value of our dollar for since 1913. Probably has a value of 5 cents right now.
Well, do you think there's a chance we could get some of that wealth that has been stolen from us since 1913?
Now, that's a challenge. I'm not sure about that one. That would probably take a long time to sort through. But I do know this. If we hold our government accountable and if we have transparency, that we will be able to find what's going wrong and follow that money. And that would be my approach. We have to have transparency, and this is the beginning to audit the Federal Reserve.
Well, if it's abolished, wouldn't that zero out our national debt? Pretty much most of it, if not all.
Well, you know, the national debt is a created crisis. I think it was intentional. Again, it came through Keynesian economics, and that is the formula for socialism. Bring a nation to dependency upon the federal government.
Well, more than half the debt is showed that it's owed to the Federal Reserve, and then who knows what other countries get money from the Federal Reserve and loan to us. So maybe a lot of it is right there.
There are so many different facets to this, and I must tell you that 50% of our debt is in trade debt. And so again, we have to go back to what are we doing? We're picking and choosing what we're doing on the national stage, who's going to win or lose, and the international stage as well. In fact, how does this make you feel? China is now producing the parts for our military aircraft. This is a national security.
Made in China.
That's right. Now, people are, of course, benefiting from the cheap labor costs there and so forth. But it's a national security risk. I differ with some of the opponents in this race here that would like to allow U.S. corporations to be favored to go to communist China to build nuclear power plants. I have been told by Club for Growth that the fact that China owns 9% of our debt is healthy because China will somehow have the United States' best interest at heart. Now, I just have to ask you, since when has a communist country ever had the best interests of the free world at heart?
And who are they in debt to?
Yeah, well,
it's another problem.
We've lost our leverage there. So this is very serious. We've got to have some fair trade. We've got to have some balance. We have to have people sitting on the Senate floor that aren't in jobs that are in training. And I do not come to this race needing any training on these issues. I've been studying them for years and acting upon them, working at all levels of government, helping with research, helping people get elected, writing policy for candidates. So I understand these issues at a deeper level, and that's what we need.
Hopefully you'll find some sincere people in Washington, D.C. that you can have a good influence on.
There are a few. And I have to say, you got to be really careful. Who's the real conservative? You know, you don't want campaigns that are surrounded by progressives who are surrounded by Washington establishment. That's happening in this race. That's not my campaign. I stand on principle. If the party leaves on principle, then I'm going to be there to fight to bring it back on track and bring it back to principles for a change.
Terrific. Thank you very much, and God bless. Anything else? That was great.
No, I'm just appreciative of what you all are doing here.
And you too. You have put a lot of time into this and your whole life, it seems.
That's it. And I think that's an advantage to my candidacy in this race. My experience can be trusted. It's not about who you like the best. It's about who you trust.
Well, isn't that true? Integrity is it, isn't it? And honesty.
That's right. And that's the record that I stand on. And that's what I will take with me to Washington.
Great. Terrific. Thank you for this interview very much.
And thank you.